Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, classmates. Once again, I'm going to give you my report for the XED 703 Quantitative Research Methods. Before that, let's have our brains test first through an exercise to test how fast our brains are. This only shows us that some of us will not be able to pay attention to other matters when we are very selective in our viewing or selective in our understanding. Or maybe we are too focused on one matter, which makes the other matters or other objects invisible to our eyes. So you have to pay attention for everything that has been given to us. So at this point, I'm going to need your attention for my report. Thank you.
This is a test of selective attention. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball. How many passes did you count? The correct answer is 15 passes. But did you see the gorilla? This video is from research by Daniel Simons and Christopher Chabris and is copyrighted. It is available for use in talks, training, and teaching on DVDs from VisCog Productions. Learn more at theinvisiblegorilla.com.
My report is the basics of educational research, a review of the literature. For the introduction, the goal of literature review is to bring together what is known to sociologists about your research topic in a way that sets up the need for your specific research. The outline for these presentations are: first is what is literature review. Second, literature review for a research paper. Third, how to write the literature review. And finally, I'm going to give you the APA reference list. For subtopic number 1, let's get to know what is literature review. This is a systematic and comprehensive analysis of books, scholarly articles, and other sources relevant to a specific topic, providing a base of knowledge on the topic. It is designed to identify and critique the existing literature on a topic to justify your research by exposing gaps in the research. Another literature review description is: It is a comprehensive summary of previous research in a topic. The literature review surveys scholarly articles, books, and other sources relevant to the particular area of research. The review should enumerate, describe, summarize, objectively evaluate, and clarify this previous research. Another one is the review of literature aims to describe the state of play in the area selected for study. That is, it should describe the point reached by the discipline of which the particular research study will form a part. An effective literature review is not merely a summary of research studies and their findings. Rather, it represents a distillation of the essential issues and interrelationships associated with the knowledge, arguments, and themes that have been explored in the area. Such literature reviews described what has been written about the area, how this material has been received by other scholars, the major research findings across studies, and the major debates in terms of substantive and methodological issues. What are the purposes of a literature review? It provides a foundation of knowledge on the topic. It identifies areas of prior scholarship to prevent duplication and give credit to other researches. Identify inconsistencies, gaps in the research, conflicts in the previous studies, open questions left from other research. Another purpose is to provide foundation of knowledge on the topic. Identify areas of prior scholarship to prevent duplication and give credit to other researchers. Next is to identify need for additional research. We have to justify our research. Identify the relationship of works in context of its contribution to the topic and to the other works. And finally, place your own research within the context of existing literature, making a case for why further study is needed. There are various types of a literature review. We have introduction to a journal article. It could be a thesis dissertation. It could be a review article or a course assignment. There are three essential categories. First is simple, a brief overview of the topic, not necessarily purely academic in scope and often uses popular sources. Another category is applied, used mostly in the business, government, and other professional environments. Applied literature reviews are more fact-finding exercises. And finally, the third category is academic. This requires accuracy, quality resources, objectivity, thoroughness, and quality analysis, but unlike the other categories, it requires a depth that the others do not have. For subtopic number 2, we are going to know about writing a literature review for a research paper. There are basic elements of a literature review. First is objective of the literature review. You have to clearly describe the purpose of the paper and state your objectives in completing the literature review. Second, overview of the subject, issue, or theory under consideration. We have to give an overview of our research topic and what prompted it. Third element is the categorization of sources. We have to group our research either historic, chronologically, or thematically. Fourth element is the organization of subtopics. Subtopics should be grouped and presented in a logical order, starting with the most prominent or significant and moving to the least significant. The fifth element is discussion. We have to provide analysis of both the uniqueness of each source and its similarities with other sources. And finally, the conclusion. Summary of your analysis and evaluation of the reviewed works and how it is related to its parent discipline, scientific endeavor, or finally, profession. There are other elements in a literature review. This is taken from other resources. First is to explore existing information in the field of research. Next is to locate major formative works in the field, ascertain key researchers working on its topic, find main ideas, conclusions, and theories, establish similarities and differences, notice main methodologies and research techniques. Next is we have to identify the gaps in existing research, show relationships between previous studies and theories, and finally provide context for the research. We are going to consider the inverse triangle if you want to have a very conclusive literature review. It helps to think of the organization of a good literature review as an inverse triangle. After first establishing the seminal theories and foundational research that inform your approach on topic, you then narrow your discussion to focus on the specific studies and methodologies that justify your research gap and design. It looks like this. On the upper portion, there is the theoretical foundation for the research. The second part is studies that are generally related in the broader history of topic of your field. Third one, studies that are similar to yours, similar topic, population, research, design. And finally, you are going to present the research gap. Now, we will dig further. What is literature review? There are two basic parts to doing a literature review. One is to collect information on the topic, and the other is writing the literature review. These questions are only guides, some suggestions of issues to keep in mind as you read the text you have accumulated over time. You will not need to address all of these questions in your literature review. However, these are just guides. First is we're going to answer what is the dependent variable or the topic of interest? How has it been conceptualized and how has it been studied? The purpose now of the research is to test theoretically informed hypotheses or to explore relationships. An example of that is, why do some adolescents use drugs while others do not? The dependent variable in the example above is adolescent drug abuse or drug use. Consider what is the status of the dependent variable. Second, what are the theories used to explain the dependent variable? In here, we are going to search for more theories regarding the research topic. We have to check out the books used in related classes in sociology and other related sources. Third, what populations have been studied? We have to take note of just who was studied, think about how relationships differ across groups of people. Varying populations is one of the most common reasons for doing additional research on a topic, but we have to remember that we really need to think sociologically about this. Fourth, how have variables been measured? We have to decide specifically what we want to research. We have to be attentive to how the concept has been measured in previous research. We have to pay attention to how authors have explained these variations. The point is that how variables are measured can lead to the testing of very different hypotheses. Let's be aware of variations in measurement in the literature that we are reading. Fifth is, have things changed over time? This would lead us to doing additional research to understand and to explain why these have occurred over different periods of time. The sixth is, could relationships found in previous research be spurious or vary depending on another or the control variable? We have to show a correlation between the two variables. We have to establish a long time ordering, control for variables suspected of explaining away observed correlations. We have to think about how theories would point you to control for certain variables such as gender, social class, ethnicity, and education. Seventh, what's new in your research? Notice the differences between what you intend to do and what has been done. Some of those differences may actually lead you to change your plans. Other differences are what make your research unique or different from the others. These variations make additions to the literature. The most challenging part will be when you try to theorize what difference it makes. For our topic number 3, how to write the literature review. There are certain guidelines in writing the literature review. I'm going to present to you different styles in writing the literature review. For our first reference, it has given us this figure. First is to conduct a thorough literature survey before we start. Next is to ensure to present the research problem clearly. Next is to compare and contrast the different views in the sources. Next, the literature review should include the title, the abstract, the index, introduction, corpus, bibliography, and appendices. Next, we have to mention the paper's methodology, analysis, instruments, equipments used in the study. We have to remember to cite properly. We have to cite all of the resources or the sources that we have had. And we have to limit the bias. Next is to summarize the strengths and weaknesses of the study of the study that you are going to conduct. So these are the guidelines for writing a literature review. Another one is one of the sources that I've had has given the 7 steps to producing a literature review. First is identify your question. Second is to review discipline styles. Third is to search the literature. Fourth is to manage the different references. Fifth is to critically analyze and evaluate. Sixth is to synthesize. And seventh is to write the review. Now, how are we going to write the literature review? First is we have to describe the dependent variable. What is the incidence of it, and what has been the major concern by sociologists in studying it? And why are you interested in studying? Second now is the description of the main sociological theories that addresses the topic. Summary of research done using one theory. This could also be a summary of research finding that X is related to Y. Be sure to group articles together by writing points. If several articles have found that X affects Y, just make the substantive point once and cite all the articles that has been given. Third, or the second part again, is the description of the main sociological theories that addresses the topic. For letter B, critics of that theory or set of relationships with a discussion of research that differs. C is the summary of research done using another theory or set of variables. D is the critics of that approach. The third part is the summary of what is known and the problem with it. So we have to identify the problem. Fourth is what your research will do to expand our knowledge or fill a gap in the literature. Okay, for subtopic number 4, I'm going to give you the APA reference list as we are using that one for our research studies. The APA reference list is a list. List only the sources you refer to in your writing. The purpose of the research reference list is to allow your sources to be found by a reader. It also gives credit to authors you have consulted for their ideas. All references cited in the text must appear in the reference list except for personal communications such as conversations or emails, which cannot be retrieved. A bibliography is different from a reference list as it lists all the sources used during your research and background reading, not just the ones you refer to in your writing. Here now is a comprehensive APA reference list for our guide and reference. For the indentation, hanging indent your reference, so we are going to use the space bar in 5 to 7 spaces for the second and subsequent lines of each reference. The space between references in general, double space between references is advised. For the ampersand, use of 2 to 6 authors, use the and before the final author. One author or 2 publications. Order by year of publication, the earlier one first, same year publication for both. Add A and B after the year, inside the brackets. Include this in the in-text citation. Say for example, Baheti, J.R., 2001A. For the URLs, we have to remove the underlines from URLs so that any underscores can be seen. Another formatting guide is, say for example, we have same first author and different second author. We have to order alphabetically by second or subsequent authors. The uppercase letters or the capital letters. For journal title, use headline style. Example, capitalize all the words except articles and prepositions. For book article or article title, in a journal, magazine, or newspaper, use sentence style. Capitalize the first word of the title and subtitle after the colon and any proper names. For the place of publication, USA publishers give the city in full in the abbreviation of the state. Say, for example, New York, NY, Springfield, MA. Publishers outside the USA give the city in full and the country in full. Say, for example, London, England, Auckland, New Zealand. For the page range, we have to use an en dash, not a hyphen, for page ranges. Example, 21 to 27. No gaps between the page numbers and the en dash. How to add an en dash in Microsoft Word if using a full PC keyboard? We have to hold the Control key and type the minus sign on the small numeric keypad. We have to take note that if your keyboard will not produce an en dash, it is acceptable to use a hyphen instead. See the publication manual of the American Psychological Association for more details on the use of hyphens and dashes in the APA style. Finally, the use of square brackets. If format, medium, or description information is important for a research to be retrieved or identified, use square brackets after the title to include this detail. Okay, these are now the examples for references. For one author, a book chapter, this is the example. Okay, we have to take note where the author is being placed and the date, the year it was published, and of course the title of the article, and then pages, and then where the place of the literature was. And for one author, multiple works published in the same year, this is the example. I'm not going to read to you. It's very easy to understand. For two authors, this is the example. We have to include now the DOI or the HTTPS part. For three authors, this is the example. For 4 to 7 authors, this is the example. For more than 7 authors, kindly look at the example. For secondary citations, a secondary citation is where you are citing information or quotes the author of your reference has taken from source that you have not read. Say, for example, the name of the author of the original work in your text, you have to cite the secondary source in in-text citation, as cited in 1993. So this is the example of that. For the reference list entry, this is the example. We have to give the secondary source in the reference. We have to give the secondary source in the reference list. We have to identify or name the secondary source. For DOI and URL, the DOI, by the way, is the Digital Object Identifier. A DOI commonly identifies a journal article, but it has also been found on other publication types, including books. All DOIs start with 10 and includes numbers and letters. Say, for example, DOI 10 point something. The DOI provides a permanent internet address for the item, making it easy to locate. You may search by DOI numbers in the library search to locate articles. DOI in your reference list entry, always use the DOI if available. No full stop at the end of a DOI. This is a new citing for the DOI, as introduced by APA in March 2017. The new format includes HTTPS and the prefix DOI org or HTTPS DOI org and the numbers. Say, for example, look at this citing. For the notes, the articles retrieved from library databases may include ezproxy.auth.ac.nz in DOIs. This ezproxy information should be removed. For example, HTTPS DOI org something. So the correct URL for this DOI is this one. So we have to remove the ezproxy auth.ac.nz. For the URL, if there is no DOI for an online journal article or an ebook, include a URL in your reference. Use the URL of the journal homepage, not the full URL of the article in your reference. In finding a journal homepage, you could go to Google search for the journal title within double quotation marks to find the journal's homepage, or go to the library database, search by the journal title or the journal's ISSN to find the journal record. For journals without a homepage and no DOI, this can happen to some discontinued journals or journals archived in an archival database only. We have to use a database homepage URL in your reference. You have to see the example in the following section. Say, for example, resources retrieved from a library database without a DOI. So, do not use the full URL of the source that you retrieved from the database. This is the example of that. An ebook, Small Town Sustainability, Economic, Social, and Environmental Innovation, the URL on this ebook page is this. However, we have to remove the easy proxy and other details following it. The correct URL in the reference for this book should be http ebookcentral.proquest.com. Here are some examples of literature review, and I have already attached these ones to my report already. You may view that sometime. For the additional information, I have in here a video regarding literature review, which you can browse anytime of the day after our class. Another is
A literature review is an objective, concise, critical
that is
summary
one
of
of the
published
videos
research
that I've
literature.
had. Finally, thank you very much for listening and have a good day, everyone. By the way, I would like to give credit to the references that I've had. These are my references, and for the videos, courtesy of youtube.com. And for the credits, special mention for the presentation template by Slides Carnival and photographs by this, Death to the Stock Photo. Thank you very much, everyone, and good afternoon.